Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Wednesday night, little after normal time, but much more normal time than it will be going forward. We usually try to do Wednesday nights right in the middle, being able to talk, right before the games or and then get to the middle, let Monday Night Football happen and just let everything happen kind of was like the middle of the week here. Football is getting closer and closer. But we are going to start with, I'm just going to say the WNBA Drama League. I mean, it's just the Drama League. I think, most people that are fans of everything has seen Coach White talk about loving everybody and being everything, and then the end is go to hell or whatever. It's like I mean, right, wrong, and different. What she said was fine, absolutely, but just the contradictory in those two statements in one 10-minute session or whatever is just very, very intriguing. I don't even confusing, whatever. But yeah, to think she doesn't have her team's back is not true, and she needed to do that. And I know. The fans booed her last night. They played a really good game. They're playing better. I mean, that's the problem with this league. And I know I'm going to let you go here in a minute, and I know you're going to go for a couple minutes. But the basketball is the least important thing to the WNBA right now. The Fever are playing really good. They could go a long, long ways. We've talked about that all summer if they get it all together. The Aces are playing well. They sat their people. I mean, it's in a nationally televised game. It's just they can't get out of their own way, and it's almost like they need the drama.
Yeah, I mean, bad PR is still, in a way, it's still kind of good. Yeah, Stephanie White, after the DeJounte Carrington incident happened, wasn't her finest moment at the press conference, saying she didn't see it. I mean, that's, a little tough to believe. And then she came out, like you said, and had that interview where he talked about love and kindness and then told everybody to go to hell. That's a little bit strange there. It kind of reminded me, because a lot of people want her to get fired. They're not firing her. I don't think they should. But it does bring me back to when Christy Sides was still the coach a couple years ago. I remember getting on here with you, and I felt like I was the only one defending Christy Sides 3 years ago. Yeah. They started out slow because they had that brutal schedule, and then they found their footing the second half of the season and made the playoffs. I mean, the last thing we want is Caitlin Clark to, go into year 4 on a third coach. So that's just that would be over the top. But we all know the political plays that are getting set out there and pulling in certain directions for certain reasons. I do think Stephanie White, it wasn't her finest moment the past few days, but the team is playing better. They're, I think, averaging 95.5 points a game. They're on pace to break the scoring average for a season. So they have the offense. Their defense is a little bit weak. That's where they need to improve. Right now, they're the 4 seed. I think if the playoffs started today, they would play Atlanta and Angel Reese. So that would be plenty of drama right there. And they're 10-1 to win the finals right now. I threw a bet on them about a half hour ago at 10-1 because I've been in California. You can't sports bet out there, which is we've talked about before, which is kind of weird because you can do everything else in California that you want, basically. So I bet them at 10-1. We'll see that their defense might let them down in the playoffs. But, last year they were in overtime away from going to the WNBA finals. So they have the shooting to get there. Their defense just needs to improve a little bit. But, yeah, this league is where to start. They're going to have to do a 30 for 30 on the first 3 or 4 years of Caitlin Clark era and Paige Beckers and Angel Reese. At some point, SportsCenter, ESPN, or whoever does these documentaries is going to have to go back 10 or 20 years from now and make a big show about it, because it is anything but basketball, and it's the perfect example of how to fail to lead a league like Kathy Engelbert has done and the other leadership people that are in their roles. So it's there's a lot to unpack with the WNBA.
Yeah, it's almost too bad or sad or whatever feeling you want to say there for 98% of the players that have nothing to do with any of this, 98% of the teams aren't really part of this. It's just a certain few people and a certain few teams that just have to stay in the forefront and have to get attention. Good, like you said, good, bad. It doesn't matter. And then sometimes when it is more than one team or more than one person, the WNBA should do something, or maybe they shouldn't do something, and they do what we believe is the exact opposite of what they should do. Now, I don't know what they're feeling. I don't know what their reasoning is, but it's just, I just shake my head a lot. And that's not good when these players are getting paid more than they've ever been. They have better facilities. They have better resources. They're in better hotel rooms. They're on better planes. They're getting more, and they're almost sabotaging themselves, I think. And they don't know how good they have it compared to the WNBA players 25 years ago. They don't understand. And some of that is just today's culture. Some of that is these players were getting paid in college now. This money isn't new to them. In fact, it might be less than what they got in college. Like, I don't know what Paige Beckers is getting paid, but I would promise you she's got paid more from UConn. Now, I don't think Caitlin Clark got paid more from Iowa. She was able to not get paid from Iowa and just took her endorsement deals from State Farm and Hy-Vee and Nike. But many players are actually getting a pay cut to go to the WNBA, and I guess they don't appreciate it or don't understand their responsibility the way I see it as a 46-year-old Midwestern white guy. And I understand that is a different set of circumstances than a lot of the players and a lot of people are from, and understand that. But you've got to get with whoever to make this much more about the game than on the court, not off the court. And unfortunately, it's all off the court right now.
As you mentioned, the players that first started in this league 20 or 30 years ago, they had it really bad. I mean, there was nothing really good about it. They probably had to take buses a lot of the times. Who knows what the travel was like back then, the hotels. It's a lot better now. Caitlin Clark's a big part of that. She's not 100% the reason, but she's the biggest slice of the pie, it's fair to say. Sabotage, you mentioned that. That's a good way to put it. Part of the reason is you mentioned today's culture, but another reason is this league has never had any consequences for not making money. In most professions, yours and I, or professional sports, there's usually minimal guidelines of things you have to do or accomplish, numbers you have to meet. And I think the players know, no matter what, that the NBA was going to come bail them out, whoever's money that comes out of whose pockets. We don't know exactly, but still they knew they were going to get bailed out. So there's just a lot of goofiness going on from the commissioner, the coaches, the players. We talked about the betting thing that took place. Not the end of the world, but not smart. Players are tweeting stuff. Typically, you don't want to do that because there's no consequences right now. They have a lack of leadership, so players are doing whatever they want. I think that's going to change. Now, we've talked about this. I think most people are in agreement Kathy Engelbert's going to be out after this year. But part of me wonders, this shitstorm that's going on, it's not going to go away anytime soon. It might be in the next year. What if they give her a 1-year extension and just say, let her be a punching bag for a year because everybody already doesn't like her to begin with? Right.
And it doesn't matter who they bring in. It's not going to go well because if that person, starts ruling with a much more iron fist, it's this way or no way, or there are consequences, whatever, that's not going to go well to begin with. It's just like as a teacher, you always kind of say at the beginning of the year, you got to be a little bit meaner isn't the right word, but you got to be on the kids a little bit more. And then you can back off a little bit. If you are just super lenient, August and September, and then you want to reel it in a little bit in November, it doesn't work as well. Kind of rein them in really close at the start of the year, then you can give them a little bit more leash works a little bit better, in my opinion. And unfortunately, the new person, I think, is going to have to reel them in a little bit and say, this is just how we're going to do things. And it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people because, as you just said, for years and years and years, there's no consequences. And now hopefully there will be some for certain actions, not every little thing. There's certain things that just happen, but there's certain things that there needs to be more consequences for. And hopefully whoever is making those decisions will do that. But I'm not 100% in disagreement with you that they know it's not going to get solved right now, and they can start making plans to get it better, implement the plans at the end of her time, let her go another month or two. Let's just say they get it done next year, July 1, on some new rules and new bargaining, whatever. Let her finish next year out and then start new because those rules are already there. Let her be a punching bag for 3 months and then move on.
Yeah, I could see something like that happen. I mean, most likely she's gone, but I wouldn't rule them out keeping her around a little bit longer just to take the hits for the league because everybody's out on her. A couple more things on the WNBA before we do move on. This is going to be my tinfoil hat, and I've been debating on mentioning this for probably about a year now. Okay. I think we're to a point where it's pretty obvious. I'd be willing to bet if Vegas would offer these odds, but they wouldn't. Maybe Kalshi would. I've heard about Kalshi, but I've never gotten on there. But they pay attention like political polls and different. I think you can bet on. My understanding.
The only time I've ever went on there is when Campbell was flirting with Penn State because I was just watching the market on. There was a real high percentage that he was going to go. Then it dropped a lot, and then it went right back up, and then he left. I mean, it's just it's interesting to watch. That's the only time I've ever watched it. Now, trust me, I was on it the whole time watching, but that's the only time I really watched.
Yeah, so my tinfoil hat thing, and I've been thinking about it for a while. I think 5, 10, 20 years from now, there's going to be an investigation, a leak, collusion. I think emails or texts are going to get leaked because this league is so dumb to begin with, of collusion against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. And I'm not talking about silly little fouls that everybody commits, nothing like that, and not even some of the technicals. But from day one, this league, the commissioner, the coaches, and the players and the refs have just been totally against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. And whatever the odds would be, I'd put some money on it that there's a official investigation at some point, 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Emails are going to get leaked. Text messages, screenshots are going to get shown because this league, they can't even handle simple things. So that's my kind of tinfoil hat conspiracy that we're going to see something come out that the collusion or whatever the official legal term would be. Maybe Laura would know better than we would, but yeah. I think something's going to come out someday because I've been biting my tongue on it. I didn't want to be a total Caitlin Clark homer or Iowa fan, but it seems pretty obvious that there's a lot going against her and the Fever for whatever reasons.
Yeah, it's not good. And do you think it would have been different if she would have went to a different team instead of in Indiana?
Yes, if she went to UConn or South Carolina, half of this wouldn't be happening. There's some other reasons too that we don't really get that deep in political stuff, but I definitely think that plays a massive part in it.
What if she'd have been drafted by the Chicago Sky? Would that have changed it?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. It might have.
Instead of Indiana?
Yeah, it might have. I mean, there's obviously
Minnesota. I mean, just different places.
Yeah, that definitely could play a factor, and it's unfortunate. It's just a mess. Everything about basketball. They're getting a lot of attention, which is in a way can be good. People want to act like it's all bad. It's not necessarily all bad. And then I did have an idea for you. I know I texted you. It was $1 million idea. Yep. And I guarantee this has been thought of. But let's say the first Saturday following the Super Bowl. So basically a week after Super Bowl Sunday.
Yep.
Live from Las Vegas, UFC 268, Sophie Cunningham versus Deshaun Carrington. They would make a boatload of money, those two would.
Oh, yeah. More money than they even know what to do with.
You can't tell me Dana White and his team haven't thought about that. You could pitch the idea here soon. the season ends whenever, October, I think, or whatever officially it is. That would give them 2 or 3 months to train, have a big UFC match. Obviously, the UFC fans are going to watch.
Yep.
The WNBA fans are going to watch, and then just normal fans are going to watch because it's 2 high-profile women fighting each other. I think it would get a really good rating, and I think those 2 would make a boatload of money.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. Sophie Cunningham's a black belt in karate, so she has some technical fighting skills.
Yeah, when she took JC Sheldon down last year, when she grabbed her by the back of the head, that wasn't just random. Control the neck, control the head, control the body. So I think Sophie would toss her around like a rag doll probably, but it would give them time to fight. And then after the fight, of course, they'd have a couple months to heal up and then get ready for the next WNBA season. But if I'm Dana White, I mean, you got to at least ask the question to both of them. Would you be interested?
Yeah, and Sophie's already been connected to UFC a little bit with being the ring girl or whatever, just a couple weeks ago or whatever, a month ago, whatever it was. And that would be. What are some other just high profile people like that would make a crap ton of money?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, if you could get Bryson DeChambeau in there versus somebody, versus Rory, I mean, get like golfers fighting each other, or obviously my first thought goes like football or basketball, but like Jake Paul's made a bunch of money doing fights. We've seen other celebrities make a ton of money. I mean, that's a good question. We could find you get Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore. Those 2 can't each other in the NFL. That would be a good one. But I just think Sophie and Carrington would be that would get a big number, and they would make a lot of money, the 2 of them. And if Dana White's listening, I just want 1% of the profits. That's all I'm asking for.
Yep. Gross. You want gross profit. You don't want net profit. You want gross profit.
Right.
Hey, I got a good one with Bryson DeChambeau. So obviously, President Trump has brought back the presidential physical fitness test. So we were talking about today. I was doing some work at school, and a couple of guys were in there with us, and we were just looking at it. And and you remember this when we used to do that, the guy that got the national or the presidential got an award, and it always had the president's signature on it and everything. And so they had these new awards, and we were looking at, print them or whatever, what you got to do. And on, it obviously has, President Donald J. Trump, his signature, the big signature. You know who the president of the council, or the chairman of the council of the national fitness thing is?
I have no idea.
Bryson DeChambeau.
Well, I got you. Yeah,
his name's on that too. So it's DeChambeau and President Trump on the National Physical Fitness Award.
There we could go. Maybe we could get. It wouldn't be fair because of the age difference. Maybe we could get Bryson. Who's the golf announcer that can't stand Bryson? They're always bickering back and forth. Golf analyst on the Golf Channel. I'm having a brain fart right now.
Brandel Chambly.
Yeah. You get those 2 in a ring, but again, it's a big age difference. That wouldn't happen. There's plenty of sports rivalries. Like I said, Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore, but Bryson being on that's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, we're gonna hand these out to kids that have no idea who he is. I don't know why his name's on there.
Yeah, a few might, a few that have parents that play golf, they might know him, but most a lot of kids probably won't know who in the world that is.
No. All right. Anything else with the WNBA? I know we kind of got a little bit sidetracked there, but
no, I think that's good. I mean, we'll see how the Fever finish up the season. I forget exactly how many games there are, but I think the 8 playoff teams are basically set right now. I think Dallas is the 8th seed, and then there's like a 6 or a 7 game gap between the next closest teams. So unless something crazy happens, the playoffs are almost set. It just depends on the order now.
Yeah, and then we've talked about this, but just remind everybody, they do have divisions East and West, but for the playoffs, that truly doesn't matter, which makes 0 sense to even have it. But
I think that's still the case this year. I'd have to double check on it. I meant to do that before we got started, but last year that was the case. I think it still might be the case this season, but I'll confirm that for next episode.
I'm pretty sure I heard that sometime this recently when they were talking about it, because are the Fever like second or third in the East, but they'd be like the 5 seed overall.
First in the East, but 4th seed
Okay.
overall.
Okay.
Sure.
So maybe that win the other night moved them up that spot. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now let's move on to the NFL. The Hall of Fame game was last week, and the Hall of Fame induction was good. Just one thing I do want to touch on the induction. We're not really going to talk about that very much, but Roger Craig, native Iowan, all-time Nebraska running back and 49er great, was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And his speech was pre-recorded because of a dementia diagnosis that, you don't know if it's football related or not, but, there's probably a good chance there's some connection there. That is unfortunately all too common with football and contact sports like that, especially players that played in his time and earlier. Football's never been safer than it is today, but it's just a reminder that, and then, some of the differences, Roger Craig isn't a multi-millionaire. He never got paid that much. If he made $1 million a year ever, I'd be surprised. So he, obviously you're making good living. I mean, you're not in the poorhouse, but not like today's athletes.
Yeah, that was sad to see. Like you mentioned, the risks of playing contact sports. We were talking about UFC fighters, boxers. Yeah. We know there's a lot of head trauma there. Football, we know Tyler Sash being a hometown, just example of that, obviously, and then some other players throughout history in the NFL. Yeah, that was sad to hear that. I think Roger Craig, I saw it. This is a good trivia question. Is he the only player to ever win a Heisman, national title, and Super Bowl, and maybe Super Bowl MVP or something?
He didn't win the Heisman.
Roger. Okay, no, maybe I'm thinking of someone else. I thought I saw something the other day. I could. Yeah, sounds like I'm probably mistaken on that. But regardless, just a sad situation. A really good Hall of Fame class, though.
Oh yeah.
Adam Vinatieri's. He had a couple jokes about Belichick and Pat McAfee. Yep. That's a little bit more on the funny side there compared to what you were talking about. But a really good Hall of Fame class.
Yeah, I mean those are always good. Next year, here's a question for you: does Ben Roethlisberger get in on the first time?
I think he should.
He's a 2-time Super Bowl champ
and 3-time appearance. I'd vote him in. I've always said of all the great quarterbacks in history, I feel like he's one of the most underrated. So I'd vote him in first.
And here's another one that he won't get in, but Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown in his prime was a bad.
That's what I said. In the 2010s, there wasn't anybody better.
Yeah, I mean he's a Hall of Fame talent. Now he's a head case, obviously, like a lot of receivers are. So that might ding him. I think I was thinking of Tony Dorsett when I was talking about that.
Now that could be.
Sorry, yes. I got confused there for a second. I think it was Tony Dorsett on that trivia there. But yeah, Antonio Brown in his prime, man, that was in like a legit elite receiver right there.
Yeah, that was just a couple guys they talked about. There's a couple surefire, Gronk. There's another one. There's like 2 of them that are almost a lock, I think. But
we'll see if Eli gets in yet.
Is he? Well, what was his? Was this last year his first opportunity?
First or second?
See, I think Roethlisberger and Eli are very, very similar. Now, Roethlisberger's overall record is better. That's what gets Eli is he's a 500 quarterback, but he was a 2-time Super Bowl champ, both against the best team ever.
Yeah, I mean, without those, he wouldn't be. But those do carry a lot of weight, though. So that's always a big debate. People are split on that. It's like 50-50. I'd understand if he didn't get in. Me and Zach have always argued I think he's going to get in because of the last name, the 2 Super Bowls, the Manning. Just he was good with the media. So we'll see if he actually gets in or not. Time will tell.
All right, let's go to the game. The game, as you wrote on our rundown, the game was great. Ended on the last second. What's the quarterback names? He's from Georgia Tech. Hayes
or Haynes. Sorry, I'm drawing blank now. Yeah, Haynes. And they both had I know I text you. They both had a bunch of starts in college. Spent a lot of time in college. And we're seeing that correlation where guys that play a lot, or at least are in college a lot, are having more success compared to the Anthony Richardsons, Trey Lance. I don't think J.J. McCarthy had a lot of starts in college compared to the guys that have a lower amount, and they're more prepared. Now, again, it's preseason. We'll see how it works long term, but that was always Bill Parcells' thing, is you need to have a certain amount of starts in college for him to draft you, at least in the early rounds.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Beck played well too. I mean, I mean, he's and here's, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent. Now, these guys, I think there used to be a transition. Okay, all of a sudden, that first round draft pick or second round draft pick, that first check hits your bank account. You go have some fun, go do some things. Maybe you shouldn't, whatever. You think I made it. Well, now these guys, again, might be taking a pay cut to play in the NFL for a couple of years. If they stick around and make it, it won't be a pay cut. But Carson Beck was making a lot of money at Miami. I promise you. I guarantee his check from Miami is more than his check from Arizona.
Making a ton of money.
So his life has not changed from his time in Miami to his time in Arizona. So there's no lifestyle difference like there was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And that's another thing I think that the scouts kind of like is these guys make money before they come to the NFL. It kind of gives you an inside look of their character and how they act with money. That might determine where you want to draft them or if you want to draft them at all. So, yeah, that Hall of Fame game was great. I know we before the episode that we did, I was like, I might watch a couple series. Yeah. I watched basically the entire game. I mean, just about every play. And I wasn't expecting that. I mean, usually I had the Hall of Fame game on in the background just for noise, but I watched most of it. And I think we got 6 preseason games tomorrow night.
Yeah, there's a bunch tomorrow.
Mendoza will be playing, Drew Aller and Will Howard with the Steelers and some others. So I'm going to be probably in Albuquerque, New Mexico tomorrow night. So I'm hoping I can I think Arizona plays the Raiders. I got to double check on that, but I'm hoping I can watch Mendoza or watch the Steelers and see some of those young quarterbacks get some time.
Yeah, they said Mendoza's going to play a lot. And now he's played a lot of college ball, but if they want him to be the quarterback, he's got to get reps. And you can't sit him during the preseason. And I think this is where, 3 years ago when Brady wasn't part of the Raiders, Mendoza's our starter, but he's not going to play in the preseason because he can't get hurt and anything else like that. Now there's some people that actually know football, and I think they're trying to do better. No, he has to play. And it's just the way it is. And you're going to ride or die. And I know they signed the veteran and everything. That'll be just fine if something happens. But you got to find out if Mendoza can do it. And it's not even really to find out if he can do it. He just has to get reps. It doesn't matter what the reps are. You need tape, and then coaches got to coach him up.
I think he took 4 snaps under center in college, and they've been talking that's a little bit of a struggle. So that's a big difference. Anyone that's played quarterback, which I really haven't other than like some flag football or something, but going under center is a little bit different. It probably sounds like it shouldn't be a big transition, but anyone that's played quarterback at a high level could probably tell you it is different from being in the gun or pistol to going under center.
Absolutely. Just the footwork is different. You got to get to your depth much more difficult. And then here's the biggest thing is most of the time you turn your back to the defense, and then you got to turn around, and then you got to gather all your information. When you're just back there in the shotgun, you see everything happening in front of you. When you snap it under center, you see a look, and then they change their look after the snap, which happens all the time. It's defense doesn't even have to be doing anything crazy. It's just going to be different. Safety drops down or a safety drops out. D lineman drops out or he's rushing off the right. It doesn't even matter what it is, but it's just different. All of a sudden, now you flip around, it's different, and you got to see it. And so it's just a different skill. And if you haven't done it a lot, if you think back to the Hawkeyes and Hayden Fry, you remember their quarterback. I don't know if you remember this, Trev, but their quarterbacks would drop straight back, like almost they would stand up and almost like shuffle backwards
Almost looked like they were going to fall backwards.
Yes, but the reason they did that is so they didn't turn their back. And there was a reason for that. And Hayden Fry was an old quarterback, and that was just his belief. And right, wrong, or indifferent, it worked pretty good for the Hawks for 20 years.
Yeah, no, I get the desire to be in the shotgun or the pistol because you can see more of the field, but the NFL, and which I like, is getting back more to more tight ends in the running game. Running backs are making a comeback, which I love because I love watching good running backs in the league. So under center is almost a necessity, especially in that offense. So I think it's going to take some time, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins plays a little bit longer in the regular season than we think. It might take Mendoza some time to get comfortable playing under center.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all, but he'll be fine. I mean, if he's everything that I think he is and everybody thinks he is, he's going to put the work in. He's going to work with Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins is a perfect guy to teach him. Like, I think we talked about it when Cousins signed there. They're both football dorks. Go with it.
They can go shopping at Kohl's and JCPenney's together.
Yeah. I mean, it's two peas in a pod. I mean, Kirk's been there, done that. He played at Michigan State where you were behind under center a little, and then he's been in the NFL for 10, 12 years, whatever it's. I mean, heck, might be more than that now, 15 years. And he's seen and done it all. And Kirk is the perfect guy because he is selfless. I believe. He wants what's best for Mendoza because right, wrong, or indifferent, even if Kirk would be the starter and beats him out, whatever you want to say, Kirk's career is coming to a close, and Mendoza's got his whole career in front of him. He's a guy that wants the NFL to be great, and he wants every player to be great.
Yeah, Kirk understands it. He knows this is his last chance really as a starter. And if he plays well, they're going to keep starting him because they're going to be winning football games. If they start out 1-3, 1-4, they're probably going to switch to Mendoza. That's just the way it works with first-round draft picks at quarterback, or especially number one, I should say, overall quarterback and high draft picks for that matter. So, Kirk's the perfect guy to be in front of him, perfect guy to learn from. They're both dorks, same personality in a way. Mendoza's younger and a better athlete than Kirk was even in his prime. But that should be a pretty smooth transition, I think, whenever they do make the change.
Yeah. I don't see that going poorly in any situation. Whether it's just a change because they're not winning, change because Kirk isn't playing great, or unfortunately a change if Kirk would get hurt. That's the other, situation that could happen, and you don't want to see that. But he knows it's time, and I'm going to guess Brady and all those guys are just going to tell. Pete Carroll's the coach there now, right? No.
Kubiak.
Kubiak, yeah. Kubiak is there. They're going to be honest with him and just say, hey, this is our plan. You're the quarterback until week 7. You're the quarterback until we kind of fall out of the race and don't play well, or you're the quarterback until you're not. They're going to have a plan, and I wouldn't be shocked if Mendoza plays in every game.
He might. I mean, and speaking of another quarterback battle that's going on, controversy, we're going to get into some NFC North notes here and then some Chiefs things before we move on to college. But Kyler Murray's named the starter there for the Vikings. Not surprising at all. I expected that. I put on the message boards. I'm like, well, now J.J. McCarthy can go work on his alter ego some more.
No, number 9.
Number 9. I'm out on that guy right now. He's young, not a bad guy, but he's immature. I don't know any good or even great quarterbacks that have alter egos. So that's just –
or at least admit they have alter egos. They probably all do, but you don't admit it.
or admit that they do. Kyler, I'm interested. I think it could really crash and burn, but Kyler's got a lot of talent. He was number 1 overall pick for a reason. He's small, but the guy's got a heck of an arm. He's elusive. They've got plenty of weapons. There's no excuse for Kyler.
Yeah, he just got to get the ball out.
Get the ball out, see over the line of scrimmage. But, he's been dealing with that since day one. I don't know. Vikings are an interesting team. I think they're 5-1 or plus 550 to win the division. Yeah. I actually think I might throw a bet on that, even though when we do our season predictions for playoffs and stuff, I probably won't pick the Vikings to make the playoffs, but I might throw a bet on them to win the division just on a flyer. Because last year I hit on the Seahawks at 5-1.
Yeah,
I remember getting on here with you, and
I actually listened to that one today. I was going back and doing some things, and that one came up. It was just interesting to hear it. Yeah, you were like in my surprise pick or the Seahawks winning the division. I was all in on the 49ers, and it came down to that one game. I mean, so we really were both correct. Seahawks won the game, and then obviously the Seahawks went on to win the whole thing. So it was just kind of interesting to listen to us and how somewhat wrong we were. We both didn't think the Bears would be very good. They're getting better, but they're still young, new coach, and 14-3 later or whatever it was. And
yeah, it is. Sometimes we get some stuff right, sometimes we get it wrong. Speaking of your Bears, we'll go through each team. Each team's got a big injury. Kobe Bryant, knee surgery, 4 to 6 months. Maybe he could come back for the playoffs if things go well. Getting Jalen Johnson back, that's going to be a concern for the Bears and their defense as a whole. The Packers, Micah Parsons is out. He even came out and said he thinks the quickest he could be back is week 6 versus Dallas, funny enough.
Right.
So, I mean, it sounds like he's going to miss the first 6 games, if not more. That could be a little troublesome for the Packers because they were a different team without him. And then the Lions, Cade Mays, their center, he's got a broken wrist. Sounds like he's going to probably be out 2 months. Now, thankfully, still got about a month till the regular season starts. Offensive linemen are tough. So maybe he only misses a couple games. But each team, Kyler Murray, we don't know. And then each team's got a significant injury or player coming back from injury. And that division is going to be tough anyway, just to begin with.
So one interesting note on the Vikings naming Kyler Murray. Now, it's not a surprise, and I think he's better. But they named him the starter before any games. Is that to protect themselves in case he didn't play well in the preseason or J.J. McCarthy played really well? If you already announced it, now it doesn't matter.
I think it's more to do with J.J. McCarthy just ain't the guy right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he's even third on the depth chart behind Carson Wentz once the season starts. There's a lot of people projecting that JJ might get traded for maybe a 5th or a 6th round draft pick. People bring up the Chargers because of the Harbaugh connection there. It's not looking good for JJ. I think if they're naming Murray the starter right now, I think it's because it's clearly he's better through camp.
Yeah, and he's got all the talent in the world. It's just not quite came together in Arizona. And again, we've talked many, many times over many, many years that I would say almost Arizona's on the same plane as like the Bengals. They just can't figure it out. They can get close. They can do some things like a year or two, but just consistently they can't be good for some reason. And it's just an organizational problem. In fact, I was listening to Keith Murphy today, and he said, actually, that's probably Kurt Warner's greatest feat in the NFL was actually getting Arizona to the Super Bowl and on the cuffs of winning the Super Bowl until Roethlisberger won it on the last second corner end zone pass. He goes, that's better than anything he did with the Rams.
I 100% agree that the Cardinals are one of the worst run organizations in the NFL throughout history. I was thinking about this earlier today because I'm in Phoenix right now. They probably have the smallest fan base of any NFL team. Smaller than the Chargers, Jags, Titans. There's probably a couple others out there. Not a lot of Arizona Cardinal fans. I mean, John Middlecoff, the guy I listened to, he moved here a few years ago from the San Francisco area. And he said, I mean, every Sunday, because there's so many people that moved to Phoenix, Scottsdale area from the north, from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa.
And they already have a team.
They're Midwest fans. And so the Cardinals are a really poor run organization. Yeah, you mentioned Kurt Warner. That might be his finest moment. Carson Palmer took him to a NFC Championship game. That was a really fun team to watch. But yeah, there's just these organizations. And speaking of bad organizations, I did have this written down. We'll still do a couple more things on the NFL. So Nick Wright was talking on First Things First today. He did his tiers of preseason NFL teams, and like the last 4 or 5 years, teams that are 100 to 1 or more to win the Super Bowl. There's always been one to make the playoffs. Each year, didn't win the Super Bowl, but they made the playoffs. They came out of nowhere. And these were the 6 teams. And people talk about sleepers like the Giants or the Saints. Those are kind of sleepers, like mid-level sleepers. These teams are real sleepers, and if history repeats itself, one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. Dolphins, Jets, Browns, Cardinals, Raiders, Titans. I can't pick one.
No.
The Dolphins and Jets are in the division with the Bills and Patriots.
Right.
Two elite quarterbacks.
And the Dolphins are, I keep hearing over and over, they might be the worst team in the league.
I kind of like what the Dolphins are done, but they're just in such a tough division. The Browns are in a division with Burrow and Lamar and Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers are going to be probably going to be good. Cardinals, arguably the toughest division as far as the top 3 teams go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks are, those 3 are 3 of the top 6 teams in the NFC.
Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers.
Yeah.
The play might be the Titans. Maybe
just because of the division.
Yeah, maybe CJ Stroud, maybe that playoff game broke him. Maybe they regress. Maybe Jacksonville. I mean, if I had to pick anyone, I guess I'd pick the Titans, though I'm probably not going to pick any of those 6 to make the playoffs when we do our official predictions.
Right, yeah.
But history says one of them is going to make it.
Yeah.
Recent history, I should say.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But, when we do our official predictions, I'm not going to have the guts to make those picks. A couple more things on the NFL. Albert Breer was on Coward today. He's been to like 18 camps in 18 days. Coward asked him, he's like, what's the one team that has just stood out to you visiting these camps that you think might surprise a little bit, Super Bowl? And instantly he goes, the Lions. He's like, the Lions are the best team I've seen. And they had an injury in their center. They drafted Mueller, the tackle out of Clemson. If their offensive line is good to great, the Lions are the most popular pick because people forget they actually finished last in the division.
Yeah, so they got a last place schedule.
They have the easiest, I believe, either the easiest or one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. And every year, a last place team wins a division in the NFL. So they're the popular pick for obvious reasons. That's just a tough division. I thought that was an interesting nugget when I heard that today. I was kind of looking at also some rookies that are playing well. Cyrus Allen of the Chiefs, the wide receiver, 5th-round pick out of Cincinnati. Sounds like him and Mahomes had a connection. I think he got hurt the other day, but I don't know how bad it was. I forgot to check. Yep. And then also for the Chiefs, right tackle Khalil Benson. He's from Indiana. He was an undrafted free agent. Sounds like he potentially could win the starting job for the right tackle for the Chiefs. So if the Chiefs, if they hit on those guys, plus the 3 defensive players they took in the top 45-ish, whatever it was in the draft, I mean, you're talking about 5 players there. If 3 or 4 of them can play and be solid to legit starters, you're talking about the next leg of the Mahomes and Andy Reid dynasty. This year, for me, I love Mahomes and Reid, but if I'm just trying to be no bias at all, I think 10-7, 11-6 is probably realistic for the Chiefs. Maybe get to the playoffs and win a game. It does feel like kind of a reboot year, but if these rookies hit their stride, it might not take long for the Chiefs to get back in contention, which is going to excite Chiefs fans and make everybody else that hates the Chiefs angry.
So what do you have the over-under for the Chiefs? Because I was listening to one guy, he's like, he goes, I just don't see how they get to 10 wins just because of everything. I bet it's right around 10.
Yeah, 10.5 is what quick Google search. I think Andy Reid's hit the over every year but one. Yeah, which would be last year for the over.
Because that's what they were saying is, last year, even with Mahomes before he got hurt, they were only 500. But if Mahomes, if they win 4 or 5 games or whatever there was left, then all of a sudden you're what were you? Let's 7-7. You win the last 3 games. Now you're 10-7. You get in the playoffs. You win a game. Now you win another. Just because they know how to play, and you never know. But I mean, I just think they say Mahomes is way ahead of schedule. He's going to play week 1. It's really hard to bet against Mahomes and Andy Reid if he's healthy.
Yeah, and I think he is going to start week 1. The thing I'm most curious about, besides the rookies, of course, that they've drafted or undrafted free agents, is how's Mahomes going to do with his leg? Because anybody that has a leg injury like that, professional athlete, Brady had it. They all talk about the first year back. You're just nervous with it. When guys are falling around your knee, the pocket collapses. Do you keep your eyes downfield, or do you drop your eyes and look at the pass rush, make sure your knee's protected? It's just human nature. So I could see him being a little bit slow out the gates. I'd be more interested in how he does the second half of the season, and the rookies, of course. But the Chiefs, we'll see. These are rumors coming out of training camp. We'll see how they look in preseason. And then if they look in preseason, how they look in the regular season versus the top dogs in the league. There's levels to it. So there's a lot of time left. And another rookie that stuck out I wanted to mention, if you're in like a dynasty fantasy league, is Jacoby Lane, wide receiver for the Ravens, who they took in the third. I know I sent you a list. I think the Ravens were my number one favorite draft class from this past draft, and they usually always draft well. Look at Jacoby Lane. He's like 6'4", 220 out of USC. He's been tearing it up. That might be a guy to target for dynasty fantasy owners. I don't know if he'll do great, out of the gates. It's kind of tough for rookies. And then lastly on the NFL, at least what I had written down, I looked at a few MVP odds, and this one might surprise you, but I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to throw a ticket on Dak Prescott at 14-1 to win the MVP. They could easily have the best offense. I think the defense is going to be better. And believe it or not, there's a couple more guys I want to mention, but I'm also going to have a ticket on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl this season at 25. I think they're around 25-1 right now. I've never done that before in my life. They should have a top 5 offense. And if their defense can be 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there, if they can just be elite at something, elite at stopping the run, or elite in the secondary or turnovers, kind of like the Bears were last year. History shows a top 5 offense with a 14 to like 15th ranked defense that is good at just one specific thing, you can win the Super Bowl. And I've been harsh with Dak in the past. I've criticized him for his playoff failures. Everybody's high on Dallas, which has me worried. I mean, everybody's high on him, and I'm in the same boat, which is like the first time in my life that I've been this high on Dallas. But Dak at 14-1, I think there's some value there. He's going to put up big numbers as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, imagine if they're 14-3,
number one seed.
Not number one seed, the hype. I mean, haven't won a playoff game in 30 years or whatever it's been. Heck, I don't even know.
Then the Eagles go in there and beat them.
Yeah. Of all the teams, it would be the Eagles too. And no, but it would be. I'm not a Bear or a Dallas fan. I actually don't even like them, but Jerry has done wonders for the NFL. Not just Dallas, but for the NFL. He is a Hall of Famer as a contributor. I wouldn't even say as an owner, but a contributor to just how things are done differently and how much more money everything is worth. He has been very, very instrumental in all of it. And it would not be the worst feeling in the world for me to have him win another Super Bowl, because in his late years, I don't even know how old he is, but he's not a young man.
No, I think he's in his mid 80s, maybe, or young or low 80s. But yeah, I mean, time is ticking, obviously, for him. I kind of would too. He's done a lot for the league. I know people hate the Cowboys. You and I are not Cowboys fans. We typically like, RJ Voss, one of our listeners, he's a Cowboys fan. We all know lots of Cowboys fans, but I wouldn't mind seeing him back in the NFC Championship game versus the Rams or whoever, whoever it might be. That would get a massive rating. And then just 2 long shots for MVP, and then that's kind of all I had for NFL, unless you got more stuff. But Jahmyr Gibbs at 120-1.
Yep.
I'll probably throw $5 on that. I think he'll lead the league in touches this year.
Yep.
If the offensive line, Dan Campbell's going to get back to running the ball. And then the longest of long shots, but I'm going to need a lot of quarterbacks to struggle for this one to come true. Myles Garrett 200-1 for MVP, not Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. He broke the sack record last year, and I saw some stat, and I could be a little off, but it's close. The last 2 seasons, he's only, playing with the Browns, he's only had 80 snaps where the Browns were leading games. I think the Rams are close to like 400 snaps where they're leading or something like that.
So he's going to be able to rush the passer more.
And if Aaron Donald comes back, there's just more depth to that D line, which I do think he's coming back. So I'm going to throw probably $5 on Myles Garrett 200-1. Again, a lot of things have to go right. he'd have to probably break his own record. He'd have to get like 25 sacks, maybe a couple defensive touchdowns. I wouldn't even be surprised if Aaron Donald comes back, if Sean McVay uses those two on offense in some goal line situations, maybe like Vrabel or J.J. Watt back in the day. Maybe Myles Garrett catches a couple touchdown passes or a couple 2-point conversions.
Yep.
The regular season. So at 200-1, I think there's too much value there for one of the greatest pass rushers of all time. So I'm going to have a bet on that. That's my longest of long shots for MVP.
Yeah, that's definitely the longest of long. I'll give you that. But yeah, if he does the same thing again on a team that wins, if the Rams are 14-2 or 3, and he has 21 sacks and, like you said, 2 defensive touchdowns, it's not the worst thing in the world. And like you said, no quarterback has an outstanding year. That's the other. No quarterback can have 50 touchdowns and 5 interceptions or anything. But
right, yeah, a lot of things have to go right. But I'm gonna have a bet on that. Once we get closer to football season, I'll kind of reveal all the bets I've made or that I'm looking at. But I just know how I am. I'm gonna throw a few bucks on that one. I've wasted $5 on worse. I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. Let's move to college football. And I know you wrote you wanted, kind of teams that you're sleeper teams. Read back to me what you wrote again. Mine went away.
Well, I thought we'd talk about some games this season that we're looking forward to outside of Iowa and Iowa State, because we're going to cover them, starting next week pretty heavily going into the season. Some surprise teams that you think might be better or worse. I did write down some over-unders I like for some college teams. And then I know I didn't have this written down to you. Well, not exactly, but are you going to any away games? What are some bucket list stadiums that you want to get to, someday? I know we've done that before, but this is always a good one to do.
Yeah. As of today, no plans to go to any road games. Obviously, I reserve the right to change my mind. Somehow Iowa State's 9-0 and ranked number 6 in the country and goes and plays BYU or whatever it is. That changes things.
I'll meet you. Come out for that one.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's the one that I no matter what it is, they are not going to that one because the next day is the Ryder Cup golf. So I think I'm out on that one. And it's a Friday night.
Just take the private jet back.
Yeah. Just ran a private jet there and back on the same night. Yeah. But bucket list is I've been very lucky. Now, all these stadiums have changed so much. Like if you went to them today, they'd be different. But I've been at Oklahoma. I've been at Texas. I've been at Texas A&M. I've been at Nebraska. Kinnick. I was there last year too. Notre Dame. I'd love to go to Notre Dame. LSU, I think is probably the best college atmosphere. And then just a little bit 1990s kid here, Florida State, but make sure they're good. I think, a Florida State, Miami game at Doak Gamble when they're, number 5 and number 8. I don't know, it'd get much better than that either.
That's one I had written down. I had Florida and Florida State when they're good. Those are 2 stadiums I want to go to.
I've not seen a game at Florida, but I have been to the stadium and we walked around. When my uncle lived in Gainesville, we went down there. He showed us around the stadium and everything. So it was kind of weird. It was when who's the coach now at UNLV? The guy that was at Mississippi State was there.
Mullins?
Yeah, Dan Mullins was a coach, and he was walking around too. And I say, hey, coach, it was like we're all just walking around. I wasn't like a tour or anything. Like literally, you could walk in the stadium. It was crazy. My uncle's like, yeah, just walk in there. I'm like, really? Yeah. Okay.
It's an iconic stadium during the Spurrier years, during the Tim Tebow years. When that place is rocking, that's a cool environment.
Yeah, they've got a statue of both of them. Obviously Heisman Trophy winners out in front of the stadium, and they're neat. And it has Tebow's speech on a plaque there and stuff. So, yeah, that was a neat place. Just kind of some other maybe not I mean, I do think BYU. I mean, I think going to BYU would be fantastic. I think Utah would be good.
Now, if you go to BYU, don't stay in Provo. There's like no bars in Provo. You don't want to stay there. You want to head back up to like Salt Lake City or somewhere up there.
Yeah.
Isn't that far, but just enough if you ever go.
A couple others. I think Husky Stadium, Washington would be good.
That's one of my top. That'd be in my top 5. And Iowa plays there on a Friday. Season, and I would love to get there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but that diehard college football fans know it. Casuals might not. When that place is rocking, that's one of the most underrated stadiums in college football.
Yep. And then I think, and you've been there for the Rose Bowl and for just a regular game, but the Rose Bowl's one. I think it's very overrated, but it's one of those it's a check mark. You need to be there. And then I think USC. I think the Coliseum when Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart were there. I don't know if there's much better than that either.
I agree. I've been fortunate. I've been to Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Penn State.
I didn't even. I mean, you think about Tennessee would be fantastic, and that wouldn't even be that hard to get to from where we, here in Iowa, it's 8-hour drive, 10-hour drive, and Alabama would be good. Georgia would be good. I mean, really, the SEC in general would be pretty good.
Yeah, a few teams that you didn't mention that I had written down. Auburn, Auburn, the light show that they do, Musco lights it. I would love to go to a game at Auburn. And then just a couple more. Virginia Tech. James get the ball in the inner Sandman. That'd be awesome. And then this one's just weird, but I love the look of the stadium. And I think it's one of the oldest, if not, it's not the oldest, but one of the oldest stadiums in the country, Cincinnati.
Yeah, the NIP. Yeah.
Yep, the NIP. I think that'd be fun to go to a game there. But yeah, I mean, all the ones you mentioned, I think most people would agree. Those are all pretty high on the list. I was trying to think of an underrated one. That's why I threw out Cincinnati. But there's probably a few others that we're missing.
Yeah, I mean, we're leaving out Penn State. I think whiteout would be fantastic there.
Texas Tech, that was a cool scene last year. Texas Tech could be a fun one.
And then, the other one that you always hear is overrated too, but I think it'd be a bucket list one is the Big House, Michigan. You'll hear it's overrated too. It's just one big bowl and stuff, but still there's something about going to the Big House. I think it'd be good.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be good. I've heard from multiple people that have gone to games there that it's a little overrated, but still to say, especially if you went to like a Notre Dame or Ohio State game there, that would be awesome.
I think Ohio State wouldn't be bad at all either.
Yeah, I mean, another stadium we didn't mention, Texas A&M.
Yeah, so I've been there. That's the caveat there. I have been there. Now, like I said, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. I've been to all those stadiums, but it was 25 years ago. They're all different now. I mean, it's so that's, I guess, as a bucket list for me. I've already been there. But yeah, Kyle Field. I'll tell you what, that is the craziest thing. And I'm sure it's probably more now, but it's 3 decks, and we walked all the way to the top before the game, and it is. That was not my favorite thing in the world, being way up there and looking.
Yeah, I could see that. That's I mean, that's a cool thing about college football. There's like 30 or 40 iconic stadiums that you got to get to. And obviously when you were with Iowa State, you got to go to some road games and experience some of those stadiums. I've been fortunate enough to experience a few, people would consider some of the top ones to get to. But yeah, I think you and I agree. LSU is number 1 for me, though. If I had to pick one, I want to go to a night game at LSU.
Yep. Yeah. I just think have Garth Brooks, Baton Rouge as they come out and start the game. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, the only other the entrance, like if it was just an entrance, might be Virginia Tech.
That one would be cool. It pops up on my Instagram every fall.
Yeah.
And I'll like it, and then I'll get like three of my next 10 videos will be Virginia Tech entrances. So yeah, that's a top one for sure. Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot. We could talk all night. There's too many, which is good.
Yeah. Well, so let's go to teams here now. I'm going to go to my teams that I think might disappoint comparatively. Now, they still might finish decent, but where they are ranked preseason, or just kind of where we think they might be. I've got 3 teams. Indiana, which there's nowhere to go but down for them. So I mean,
Right.
but I think they're preseason number 6. So I think even below, I think they're going to finish around 12th. I think they might get in the playoffs, just kind of depends how it is. But I'm going to go Indiana. I'm going to go the runner-up in Miami. Kind of same idea. Can't nowhere to go but down. And then my other one, and they're preseason, I believe, 24th or 25th, and that is Clemson. I just think Dabo's time is past.
You're probably right on that one. That's one I wouldn't. I know I said last week I'm still probably going to throw a bet on them, but yeah, I agree. They probably shouldn't even be ranked. That's like a courtesy ranking, it feels like.
Yeah. Now, again, my caveat for Indiana, Miami, they finished 1st and 2nd, so nowhere to go but down.
Yeah, no, I get that. That makes total sense. I'm going to go the opposite way, at least with some overs. And I haven't bet these yet, but I'm looking at all 4, and I have to check their schedules because each of them might play each other. So that kind of affects the overs, right? So Virginia and Virginia Tech, I'm looking at the over at 7.5.
Okay.
Virginia returns a ton of starting experience, which that does mean something to me. Virginia Tech gets the James Franklin boost, hopefully in year 1. And then over to the Big Ten, UCLA over 6.5.
Okay. There's a lot of people high on them right now. I mean, that's
and Washington over 8.5. I don't know if I'll bet both, but I might bet one of them, depending again if they play each other or not. Got to check into that. Speaking of the Big Ten, and we'll talk about Iowa State too in the Big 12. Everybody's kind of got the Big 12, or excuse me, the Big 10 ranked Ohio State or Oregon or Indiana in that order. I would go Indiana 1 just because I'm going to quit doubting Kurt Cignetti. I'd actually go.
I am a little bit. I have them going down a little bit.
No, that's fine. They might. It's very plausible. I'm going to go Ohio State 2 just because they're proven, and I'm going to put Oregon at 3 until they prove it. Now, I think this year they might, but everybody feels like that 4th team in the Big Ten. It's either Penn State or USC, and I'm probably going to go Washington as my surprise Big Ten team. To slight surprise because they're ranked, but to make the playoff this year. We'll see when we do official predictions weeks here in a few weeks.
Well, we're kind of transitioning to this. So some of my teams I think might do better than predicted. Now, my number 1 is USC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do have a tough schedule, but I think it's getting time for Lincoln Riley to put up or move on. And then another one is Arizona. Now, this is relative. This is just to compete for that Big 12 title. They're not going to be in they're not going to be ranked 7th in the country or anything, I don't believe. But I do think they'll be better than they've been. And I think they finished with 9 wins last year. So I think same 9-10 wins. And then here's the other one. And this one's not really, but I've got LSU and I got Lane Kiffin. They're going to the playoffs and he's going to do it on year 1 right away.
I might be picking LSU to make the playoff too. I think Alabama could see a slight drop and miss the playoffs this year. They got in last year, so you can kind of flip-flop those 2 teams. I'm just looking at the top 25 right now. Does Utah have a drop-off with Whittingham leaving and going to Michigan?
I don't think so. I think they paid their guys enough to stay, the ones they wanted to stay, and I think they're if I had to do like the top 4 of the Big 12 right now, it's Tech, it's BYU, it's Utah, and then kind of one other team, Arizona, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, if everything clicks offensively for them, and they're just kind of what you're thinking with the Cowboys, be a top 10 offense and just hang on for dear life at 70 or 80 on defense, and just hang on for dear life, and hopefully you score enough. Oklahoma State could be in that as well. Yeah,
I think they're like, I forget. I looked the other day. Are they 25 or 30-1 to win the Big 12? Maybe it's more than that. I'll probably throw a bet on them. A lesser version of the Kurt Cignetti transfer, bringing a lot of his guys into Indiana. Yep. Again, not saying they're going to win the national title, but could they win the Big 12? I think there's some value there. One last thing before we get to Iowa State, because I know we're kind of sort of getting toward the end here.
Yeah.
Speaking of a big week 2 or 3 game. I forget exactly what week it is, but Ohio State at Texas.
Yeah, so I've got two big games, Ohio State and Texas. There's a lot of people that are picking that game to be unbelievable, and then no, I don't think anybody would be shocked if that's the national championship game either.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. I think there's a good chance one of them misses the playoffs this year because both of them have brutal schedules, and obviously they're going to play each other. So one of them is going to lose a game, of course.
Right.
And then you probably, depending how the season shakes out, you can only lose one more the rest of the way. We'll start with Ohio State real quick. At Texas.
Well, yeah, they play like 6 or 7 ranked teams. Yeah, I mean.
At Texas, at Iowa, at Indiana, at USC, home versus Oregon, at Nebraska. They'll probably win that. And then versus Michigan. We know Ryan Day's record versus Michigan. I mean, those are 6 or 7 legit games. And if we switch to Texas, obviously they've got Ohio State. They're at Tennessee, Red River versus Oklahoma, versus Ole Miss, at LSU, at Texas A&M, and a sneaky trap game, I think, is November 7th. The week before LSU, they're at Missouri. Missouri's projected to be a good team. So
yeah, they're in that preseason top 25, I believe.
I wouldn't be totally shocked if one of them misses the playoffs. I don't know who it would be, but they're both like 2 of the favorites to win the Natty. Like you mentioned it, and whoever wins the game, whoever loses, they both could run the table. They're both talented enough to do that. But if you're putting like a parlay together on 4, 5, 6 teams to make the playoffs, I don't know if you want to put both of them since they play each other.
Right. It just the margin of error is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't, no 3-loss team has made the playoff yet, have they?
No,
I don't believe so. So I mean, whoever loses that game, you've got one slip up left.
Yeah,
and then otherwise you're on the outside looking in most likely.
And then here's my other big game, and this is a little bit maybe Big 12 centric, but BYU and Notre Dame. At BYU. It is a huge, huge game for BYU and the Big 12 because that will give BYU maybe a margin of error if you win that game and you don't win the Big 12, but maybe you only have 1, maybe 2 losses. You have 1 loss going into the Big 12 and you lose to whoever, it doesn't even matter who. You got that second loss, but you beat Notre Dame, and if that's Notre Dame's only loss, you might be able to get that second team in from the Big 12 if BYU beats Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be a massive game. I can't even imagine what tickets are going to be like to get into that one. That's
it's the 2 biggest religious schools in the country. There's number 1. Catholics like to drink, and Mormons do not. I mean, it's just 2 big football brands. I mean, people forget BYU is national championship team. I mean, they did it in 1984. I mean, the Hawkeyes played them a couple times in the Holiday Bowl with Ty Detmer and that era in the early 90s, and they had 1 loss or they tied or whatever it might have been, and then they fund their programs just as much as it. I mean, they had the highest paid player last year in basketball. They're funding their program with the best of them, and they expect to compete. And they think they have their coach. He turned down Penn State to stay, and so obviously they upped everything he wanted or needed, and this is their opportunity. And this was a great get for BYU because I'm assuming they're going to Notre Dame next year or in a couple of years, whatever.
Probably.
I would assume Notre Dame's not going to BYU without a return trip or 2. I promise you that.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game. I had a few here, and then we're going to end one that'll kind of lead us into Iowa State because I know you want to talk about their 2 deeps before we get off of here. Week 2, I think Oregon's going to win, obviously, but I'm interested to see Oregon's at Oklahoma State, who we just talked about. I'm interested to see can Oregon State keep it close at home.
Right. Yep.
That's an interesting one to me. Week 3, LSU at Ole Miss. Kiffin going back to Ole Miss. That's going to be a lot of drama. This one is not going to be on anybody's radar, and the only reason I put it here because it could be a trap game, and we know this team has a history of knocking off top 5 opponents. Week 4, Notre Dame at Purdue. Purdue, I don't think is going to be good.
Right.
We saw their AD come out the other day and say a really stupid comment. But Purdue has a history of knocking off big teams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Iowa, Ohio State.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could that be a trap game? And then the last one, this will kind of lead us into some Iowa State talk, I know. Week 6, USC at Penn State. Again, USC's got a brutal schedule. Penn State's got an easy one on paper. If Matt Campbell, if they're 5-0 or 4-0, whatever they'd be at that time, if they win that one, I mean, they're looking at the playoff, obviously.
Yeah. So we're going to transition to Iowa State, and it's really not about the actual two deep. It is. There was a question asked today at his press conference, and Coach Rogers literally just went down. It was like, what do you think of the number one quarterback or maybe the number one receiver, whatever? And he just went off for about 10 minutes and just listed the entire two deep from quarterback all the way through the offense and then all the way through the defense. Matt Campbell didn't say that much about individual players and where they're playing in his entire 10 years. It's just the difference in how coaches operate and how he was honest in some injuries. Like a couple of guys are hurt, didn't practice, we're holding them out. He's got a sore foot. There's no holding back right now. It is what it is, and he's just going to be honest about it. And it's more of it's not actually about the two deep, and things change, but it's just the transparency and this coaching staff, how different it is. And as I was listening to the guy talk that was there today, and he's like, I don't even know what to do. I've never had this. I've covered the team for 7 years. He's about 30 years, 28 years old, 29 years old, started in college. And he's like, I've never had this. I've never had this information. We've always had to deduct what kind of read it, how he's saying it. And then with the injury front, he goes, I've had to just make that stuff up just as much as Campbell just to write something. And so I think I saw where the ESPN model predicted Iowa State to go 3-9. And not necessarily a win this game, lose that game, but just their numbers are 3-9. And I just have a hard
you could probably tell now that I got my computer fixed, I've got another computer.
Yep.
So I can kind of look up things while we're talking, which I haven't been able to do before. But go ahead, because I got their schedule pulled up and I want to ask you a question a bit. But if you see me looking the side, I should have said that.
That's good. I've done that too. I don't have one today, but there's times I've got two going as well. It's kind of nice. You have the camera going here, and then you can look at stuff over here. I have a notebook written down stuff. That's what I look at the side.
Well, that's the problem. I usually have something written down, but you can't write down everything. So you got to get on Google or ESPN and do a quick search on certain topics.
But just it's with the injuries. It was just never truthful from Campbell. And we all knew it wasn't, and he had no idea. But he's saying it right now, and but kind of going back to that 3-9. I just think this coaching staff doesn't know how to lose overall. They won a national championship. In South Dakota, I understand it's different levels, but winning breeds winning. Some of them are from North Dakota State. They don't know how to lose there. Doesn't matter who they went into Ames and won. They went into Iowa City and won. They won 8 national championships in the last 15 years or whatever it's been. These guys don't know how to lose. So I do think they're going to win more than that. But then on the reverse psychology of that, they don't know how to lose, but what if they do start losing? It's very easily they could lose 3 or 4 in a row this year and still end up with 6 or 7 wins, which would be a decent season, but you still have that 3 or 4 game losing streak that they're not used to. How do they handle that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And looking at their schedule, I got a bunch of questions here, kind of, which I know you won't find. It looks like they got a tough stretch, a 4-week stretch at BYU, at Arizona, home versus Oklahoma State, then at Baylor.
Yes.
That doesn't seem easy on paper. Now, what's besides Iowa game, of course, what's a home game you're looking forward to? What's an away game that you're kind of keying in on the season?
Well, I it's going to be very, very difficult. But the home game is the Utah game, the first conference game. They've got a new coach as well, so you don't know. I think they're going to be pretty good, but you want to get those teams early in the year. Of course, we're in the same boat. We're probably going to be playing better. Hopefully, we're playing better at the end of the year than we are at the beginning of the year, just because the same reasons. But that's a game that, one, I always like to see decent teams come to games. Mm-hmm. And then first conference game, it's, see how he operates. He's going to have 3 games under his belt to, get all the, there's guys that you think are starters that just get beat out, or you're going to have some nicks and cuts and bumps and bruises. And it's just, we're going to see what he's made of, I think, at Utah. The Iowa game, I think, is intriguing. It's a rivalry game. Now, don't kid yourself. It could get out of hand. I'm not oblivious to that. But if Iowa State doesn't make mistakes, can they hang around and give that kicker a chance to win 3 in a row on the last? I don't think it's going to happen. But could you only imagine if he would beat them again 3 years in a row with a kick? Same guy. And it's got to be 54 yards for the 3rd time in a row.
Right. Yeah, that would be phenomenal. I mean, for Iowa State, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, but I'm more of the story than even the win.
Right. Right. And him beating Iowa in his first season as head coach, that would be that would be massive. Iowa should be a pretty big favorite. But
yeah, they will be.
If it's a 1-score game in the 3rd quarter, I mean, the pressure is going to start shifting toward Iowa on that one. We know that. What was I looking at? Oh, I was just thinking about this. A stadium that we forgot to mention, but when they're really, really good, because Iowa played there when Sash was there, at Arizona. That's actually a really tough stadium.
Yeah.
When that crowd's into it, Arizona's got it. That's probably one of the more underrated stadiums in college football when they're rocking and when Arizona's good. But that's just a tough stretch for Iowa State. They're kind of in the middle of their schedule.
Yeah. And then, always the last game, and unfortunately this is coming to an end for a couple of years and then it'll come back, but Kansas State game. That's just they're the same school as us. They got a new coach. We'll see a lot on what, at the end of the year, we'll know if the things are going well or not for both teams. That's the only difference in that game than like the Iowa game or the Utah game. You have the whole season in front of you to get a trajectory. This one, if Kansas State is, 10-1 and Iowa State's 3-8, well, the game's not very interesting. But if they're both battling for bowl games or, they're both they're both kind of struggling, but you win that game, get the fan base kind of, hey, we got better. You win 3 of the last 5 games. You finish with 4 wins. I don't know, but give them something to get excited about for next year if it didn't go as well as you'd hoped.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, for Iowa State, depending on how the season goes, I mean, that could be to get to a bowl game, which to me that would be impressive. Mm-hmm. Just not trying to throw extra shade on Iowa State, but just given their history outside of Campbell, if Jimmy Rogers can do a bowl game, I mean, in his first season, to me, that's a very big success. And that they do kind of have a tough schedule. Going to Iowa is going to be tough, and then their Big 12 schedule is pretty tough too. So that. You're right, though. That's I mean, Kansas State, Iowa State's, a classic matchup as we know throughout the history. So there could be a lot on the line for both teams in that one.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else you want to talk about? We went a little bit over, but it's getting close to football time. We're going to go over. We can do that. We don't care. And it's a little bit longer this week, but we've been a little bit short the last few weeks, so we're just making up for it. And when we start talking football, we kind of ramble a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I have a feeling for the next 4 or 5 months, we're going to be going over a lot with football season. I know I've been texting you and Zach a lot about different pools that we're going to be doing. Yep. College football pick'ems. I'm really looking. Yep. I'm very excited to get before we got on, I did a fantasy football mock draft on ESPN. Because in Taylor's league, our big league, I found out my draft position a few days ago. I got the 9th pick, so I got to get in there, make sure I get the 9th pick, and then try to see what players are going to be available. Yeah. and then the return pick, who might be there. It always makes me laugh when fantasy mock drafts where there's just it's like our golf drafts. There's some people that they can't predict ahead. Like if you're 5 picks away from your time, you kind of have an idea 2 or 3 guys that are probably going to be there.
Yeah.
And start thinking ahead. And then you got the opposite of where people take till the very last second to make a decision. But we're getting close. It's exciting.
No, absolutely. All right, Trev, we'll talk next week, and we'll be just that much closer to football. And, next week or maybe the week after, we'll decide which one, but we'll start making our we'll do our win-loss Iowa State, win-loss Iowa, win-loss. I know we're going to do Penn State this year for sure.
Nebraska.
We always do Nebraska, and and any others that we might want. But yeah, we'll win-loss several teams there. And then, a week or so later, we'll make our predictions for the NFL as well. So a lot of predictions coming up, and see how bad we'll be at the end of the year.
Nope, that's right. The best time of the year is coming. Looking forward to it. Good talking to you tonight, and we'll talk again next week.
All right. Thanks, Trev. We'll talk next week.
All righty. Have a good night.